Alex Eala just shattered the definition of what it means to be the biggest star in women's tennis. And Aryna Sabalenka's inner circle is paying attention. This isn't a story about rankings. It's not a story about Grand Slam titles. This is a story about a 20-year-old Filipino phenom who walked into the 2026 Middle East swing without even being guaranteed a spot in the main draw, and left it having redefined what the WTA can actually be worth to an entire region of the world. And the moment it became undeniable, it happened on a podcast.
Biggest draw in women's tennis right now.
Yes.
Is she bigger than Sabalenka? Is she bigger than Coco?
Dude, it's crazy. She's having the same effect that Fonseca was having, like, on the men's side last year in Miami.
It's like Fonseca, but I think it's bigger than Fonseca.
It is, yeah, it is.
Like, the Doha, crowds were insane for her.
Episode 151 of Nothing Major, hosted by 4 former American ATP professionals. Sam Querrey, former world number 11. John Isner, former world number 8. Steve Johnson, former world number 21. And Jack Sock. These aren't content creators. These are men who lived inside the professional circuit for years. And in February 2026, Sam Querrey posed a question that's been spreading across digital sports media ever since. Is Alex Eala currently the most significant draw in women's tennis, eclipsing world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka and American icon Coco Gauff? Steve Johnson didn't hesitate.
Is she the biggest draw in women's tennis right now?
Yes.
Is she bigger than Sabalenka? Is she bigger than Coco?
Dude, it's crazy. She's having the same effect that Fonseca was having, like, on the men's side last year in Miami.
It's like Fonseca, but I think it's bigger than Fonseca.
It is, yeah, it is.
Like, the Doha, crowds were insane for her last week.
Yeah.
Correct.
She's definitely one to watch, obviously because she's so good, but just for the atmosphere. You want to tune into her matches just to see what it's like on the court.
There's got to be, like, a little jealousy maybe from some of the women, that girls coming in, she's not top 10, biggest.
But it wasn't just opinion. Johnson grounded that answer in specific observed behavior. Standing room only attendance at EALA matches on outer courts during practice sessions, not a Grand Slam final, not center court practice sessions. John Isner went even further, calling the Philippines a huge market that the tennis industry had historically underestimated. He described the mobilization of the Filipino diaspora as a Pacquiao-like effect where international venues are effectively converted into a home courts by supporters who travel across continents just to be there. For former world-class professionals, one unanimous direction. And at the center of it all, Alexandra Ayala, Rafael Nadal, academy graduate, left-handed baseline weapon, and the player Kim Kerrs called a pitbull on the Love All podcast, directly comparing Eala's relentless physical intensity to former world number 4 Dominika Tulova. And that's when the numbers came out. Because what the Nothing Major panel was describing wasn't just sentiment, it was data. In early 2026, Eala's Instagram engagement rate sat between 15 and 20%. The industry average for top-tier WTA athletes 1.5 to 3%. That's not a gap. That's a 10 times multiplier. Her Australian Open press conference views exceeded 60,000. Surpassing the average press conference views of Novak Djokovic, Yannick S., and Carlos Alcaraz. The men's so-called Big Three and Eala's numbers were higher. Meanwhile, Aryna Sabalenka, world number 1, 4 Grand Slam titles, career earnings of over $46.7 million, was averaging sub 45,000 views on her press conferences. Now, understand what that actually means. Sabalenka is by every objective measure one of the greatest players on the WTA Tour right now. She won back-to-back U.S. Open titles, the first woman since Serena Williams to do that. Her career record stands at 490 wins and 201 losses. She won the Brisbane International in 2026 and reached the Australian Open final. These aren't small achievements. These are dynasty-level achievements. But Eala, ranked 49th at the time of the 2026 Australian Open, was being mobbed during practice sessions at Melbourne Park. Her first-round match, a loss to Alicia Parks, featured a crowd that turned the venue into what analysts described as a sea of national pride. Hundreds of fans waving flags, chanting, "Let's go, Alexandra!" The intensity got so significant that security protocols had to be upgraded. Eala was rushed from the court by a dozen guards after the defeat. She later admitted the experience was overwhelming, that the loss felt harder because she felt she'd failed her adoring fans. Kim Clears, weighing in directly, said Eala needs to be protected from the craziness. And Kyle's didn't stop there. She explicitly compared Eala's status in the Philippines to Michael Jordan's status in the United States.
Yeah, correct.
She's definitely one to watch, obviously because she's so good, but just for the atmosphere. You want to tune into her matches just to see what it's like on the court.
There's got to be like a little jealousy maybe from some of the other...
Michael Jordan in a tennis conversation. But here's what happened next. Because the Middle East swing is where everything shifted. Abu Dhabi, Doha, Dubai. The definitive arena where I's growing market presence collided with Sabalenka's athletic reality. And the collision produced something no one in the industry had fully anticipated. Sabalenka came into the swing having just pushed through the Brisbane title and an Australian Open final. The physical toll was real. She withdrew from Dubai saying she was not feeling 100%, pointing to illness and fatigue that had tracked through the entire 2025 season. And she was vocal about it. Sabalenka called the WTA's mandatory event rules insane, publicly accusing the governing body of failing to protect the health of its top players. While Sabalenka navigated that conflict, IA wasn't even guaranteed entry into Dubai. She wasn't ranked high enough at the entry deadline. She only got in because of a series of withdrawals, including Naomi Osaka, that opened the door. She entered the draw by right, and then she beat Jasmine Paolini, top 10 confirmed. Then she defeated Srana Krista in the third round. Then she reached the quarterfinals where she ran into Coco Gauff, losing 0-6-26. A heavy defeat by any measure. A dominated performance. And yet the match drew a packed stadium where the crowd was described as mostly supporting Alex. Coco Gauff, American icon, French Open champion, publicly thanked Eala after the match for bringing a new demographic to the sport. Let that settle for a second. Gauff thanked Eala for the crowd that came to watch Eala lose. By the end of the Dubai run, Eala had collected roughly $146,500 in prize money across the Middle East swing, $35,000 in Abu Dhabi, around $13,500 in Doha, and $98,500 in Dubai. And her ranking rose to a career high of world number 31. A milestone that secured her a first-round by seed-like status at the upcoming Indian Wells event. A tournament analysts now openly call the fifth Grand Slam. And this is where the biggest piece of this story comes in. The one that connects directly back to why Query asked that question in the first place. In late February 2026.
Has done well and established herself as a really good player on tour. They all come out to support her, and so I think we saw that in Australia when it was kind of overcrowded. They put her on a too small.
Alex Eala visited Nike's world headquarters in Oregon. She was greeted with what reports described as cavalry and fitting presence, including personalized portraits displayed alongside other legendary Nike athletes. The Nike Bayou in Full Bloom collection was released as part of that relationship. And surrounding that visit, reports began circulating on platforms like Athletic and Tennis News Network, claiming Nike had offered Eala a 3-year endorsement contract worth up to $45 million to position her as the new face of the brand across Southeast Asia. Those figures were largely debunked by fact-checking outlets as fabricated sponsorship stories, but the commercial reality underneath the rumor is very real. Eala is a confirmed global Nike ambassador. She already carries partnerships with Globe Telecom, a relationship that started when she was 8 years old, plus Babolat, Bank of the Philippine Islands, and Locally Juice. Combined with the Nike deal, that portfolio makes Eala one of the most commercially positioned athletes under 21 in any sport anywhere. Sabalenka's commercial standing, by contrast, has been described by some analysts as uncertain. Despite $46.7 million in career prize money, second all-time on the WTA, her marketability has been complicated by moments the press has consistently framed against humility, poise, and maturity. The Roland Garros 2025 final. Her treatment of her coaching team post-match press conference comments that some found exclusionary. The old arena temper narrative. None of that erases what Sabalenka has built athletically. But in the boardroom, where brands weigh association risk alongside audience reach, that contrast creates a strategic question with no clean answer. But here's the friction point. The one nothing major didn't fully address. Not everyone agrees that draw power is an unconditional win for the sport. On Reddit, a counterargument has taken hold that his popularity is Eala-specific, that it pulls Filipino crowds to specific venues, but may not be driving broader tennis growth across Southeast Asia. There's also the question of promotional support. Critics have pointed to Janice Tien, a player from a similarly populous Southeast Asian nation who reached a top 100 ranking with fewer wildcards and significantly less institutional media support than IA has received. That's led to accusations that the WTA is manufacturing stardom to tap into the lucrative Filipino market.
Alex Eala, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever, tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's a big interest. So things like that happen. I mean, it's you could argue that it was, maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule him on a bigger court. Yes, but again, she's so young and she's just coming through, so
potentially at the expense of other rising players with equal or greater on-court merit. And the critics of the Nothing Major panel itself are pointed. Querrey and Johnson have been accused by segments of the tennis community of being insincere, of functioning more like marketing voices for the USA and major sponsors than genuine analysts. These dissenting voices argue that on-court performance has to remain the primary metric and that still needs significant technical development before her draw power reflects actual competitive standing at the top of the WTA. Clijsters, for her part, identified his mental growth as the defining factor in the 2026 rise, specifically her improved consistency against unseeded players, a category that had previously stalled her ranking progress. Clijsters pointed to Eala's dynamic footwork, great stamina, and ability to hit through the backhand even under pressure. Instincts shaped at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca since she was 13. As the tactical foundation that makes opponents very uncomfortable. The left-handed cross-court forehand, the flat backhand redirection, the pitbull baseline combinations. The technical profile is real. The mental development is documented. The commercial force is undeniable. But as both Sabalenka and Eala approach Indian Wells, and as the 2026 Asian swing comes into view with the Korea Open in Seoul, the China Open in Beijing, the Japan Women's Open in Osaka, and the Topan Pacific in Tokyo, one question still hasn't been answered by any expert, any podcast, any performance metric, or any Nike press release. If Alex Eala's ranking plateaus, if she stalls somewhere between number 25 and number 40, does the draw power hold, or does the crowd that arrived for the phenomenon eventually start demanding the champion?
Yeah.